Greetings, fellow book lovers, and welcome back to Colin's Corner. Today we'll be doing my September TBR, but before we get into the list, we have to go over the answer for the last Comedy with Colin segment where I asked you guys the joke, what do you call a person who never passes gas in public? The answer? A private tutor. Alright, now let's get on with the TBR. If you guys have been following me for a little while now, then you may remember that earlier this year I decided to dedicate September to self-published authors, and by doing so, I will be doing mostly self-published books in the month of September. The only stipulation that I gave this was other than read-alongs I am already a part of. So what I'm going to do first is get the read-along books that I'm doing out of the way, and then we can get to some of the self-published books that I plan on tackling in September. The first book that I will be doing as part of a read-along is going to be Memories of Ice. This is the third book in the Malazan Book of the Fallen. Now I am doing this as part of a read-along with discussions after each book, and once we finished Gardens of the Moon and Dead House Gates, we realized we were going to be getting into some of the longer books in the series. So what we've decided collectively as a group to do is, instead of reading the entire book in a month and having a discussion, we're going to be starting to read half of the book and then having a discussion after the halfway point. Now, Memories of Ice is probably the book that I am the most excited to get to this month, but the next book that I'm going to mention is definitely going to be a close contender. Spoiler alert, guys, I am enjoying Malazan so much. I am so happy that I finally have gotten to start reading the series, and with a fantastic group of people. So I'm really loving. I had such a blast with our discussion in Gardens of the Moon, and I'm really excited to get to Dead House Gates. If you did not see my dedicated review for Gardens of the Moon, I will link that in today's video so I don't gush too much about it here. And just a heads up, I will be planning to compile a dedicated review for Dead House Gates as well. I'm not quite sure when that's going to be coming out yet, but I do plan on getting that out pretty soon, so be on the lookout for that as well. The next book that is part of a read-along that I am doing is going to be Fool's Fate, the third book in the Tawny Man trilogy. This is a read-along that I am participating in with Ben from Books with Bengus Khan, and as of the recording of this video, I am about 200 pages into Golden Fool, so I still got a decent chunk to read before the end of August, but it is something I'm enjoying a lot. It seems like this book, Golden Fool, is a lot of setup, a lot of getting characters reacquainted or developing new relationships, and I feel like, you know, this, if I'm not mistaken, Tawny Man was supposed to be the end originally of the Realm of the Outerlings, so with the final installment, I am extremely excited. I'm anticipating a lot of really big events to go down, and so I'm really excited to see where Robin Hobb is going to take this series. And obviously now we know that, you know, Rainwild Chronicles and the Fits and the Fool trilogy happened afterwards, but I know a lot of people do say that Tawny Man is their favorite, so I'm really excited, like I said, to see how she wraps this trilogy up. Next up, I will finally be dipping into the self-pub books, starting with The Severing Sun by Vaughn Roycroft. Vaughn is an extremely nice guy. He reached out to me a few months back and sent me a copy of his book with a beautiful handwritten letter that I saved. I still have. I really appreciate that, Vaughn, and I just wanted to say, Vaughn sent me this book, no strings attached. He did not ask me for a review or anything. He just sent it to me out of the kindness of his heart. So again, thank you, Vaughn, for that. I'm really excited to get to this. I will be actually reading this one with Christopher Nava from the next chapter. Him and I had planned a few months back to get to this one in September. And again, I know Books with Bengus Khan was a really, really big fan of The Severing Sun. The cover art of these, at least this first book, is incredible. And so this one sounds really exciting to me. The premise of it is that there is a prophecy called the Bringer of Yoranan, where apparently the prophecy states that one man will be the catalyst for some kind of massive upheaval in the world. And our BookTube's very own Dr. Philip Chase stated in a blurb on the back of the Severing Sun that there is one of the best duels in fiction within this book, so that's something that's really exciting to me. I don't really know too much more about this. It seems like it might be a more classical fantasy feel to it, but I've heard that the pace is very high, there's a lot going on, and it's exciting. So again, I'm really excited to finally get to The Severing Sun by Fawn Roycroft. Next up, I have two books by an author named Corey McCullough. Now, Corey, I actually had the pleasure of meeting at the Three Rivers Comic Con early this year well, not early this year, but early in June this year. And he's such an extremely nice guy. I've had also the pleasure of having some social media contact with him since meeting him. And, you know, the fact that he's so engaging and was really kind to me whenever I met him has really kind of helped propel his books up my TBR list a little bit. And so I'm going to start the month with A Knife in the Dark. This is a science fiction noir thriller. It's a novella. It is something that I planned to potentially get to last month, but didn't really have the opportunity or the time to get to it in August, so I just pushed it to September. This one sounds really interesting. On a planet where nighttime lasts 145 hours, we are following an ex-detective named Jack Torelli, who gets hired by a billionaire to solve the murder of the billionaire's son. So Jack has essentially until, I think, daylight returns to solve this murder. So it sounds, especially since it's a novella, it sounds like the tension is going to be high, things are going to be happening very quickly, boots on the ground, running. So I'm excited to try this one out for sure. And the next book is going to be The Fallen Odyssey. This is going to be book 1 in McCullough's Fallen tetralogy, so it's going to be a 4-book series. This is a book about a guy named Justin Holmes. He's a young man who gets trapped in a parallel universe. Now, Justin and his father's relationship begins to get strained after the really unexpected and unfortunate death of his mother from a fatal car accident. And once Justin's relationship with his father becomes strained, he seeks to escape to another place, but little does he know, he seems to have maybe gone a bit too far in his search to get away. So this sounds like the beginning of a really exciting journey. Parallel universes are always something that I'm really interested in reading about, and I like to see people's different takes on them. So this one I'm very excited to get to. Next up is going to be the Voidwalker Collection by Derek Bailey. Derek is another person that reached out to me on social media. Seems like an extremely nice guy, and I've had the pleasure of having interactions with him on Twitter, or X if you want to call it that. Some Discords now too. But this is actually a collection of 8 novellas, and they're centered around a place called the Manor, where only the most lavish parties are held and only the most interesting people attend. There are questions as to whether the manor is a paradise or whether it is some elaborate trap or scheme. There's also questions as to whether or not it's even real. So this is giving me some massive Clue, like the board game kind of vibes. So I think that's awesome. And I don't know if I'll be able to get to all of these 8 novellas within the month of September, but I do at least plan on starting 1 or 2 of these and fitting them in around some of my bigger reads. The cover art on some of these self-published books, like The Severing Sun, Corey McCullough's books, these covers, the quality is awesome. There's even some fun artwork. I was flipping through the Voidwalker collection, and there was some really cool artworks in the headings of each of the novellas. So I'm really, again, impressed with just the quality of self-published books that are coming out. Some other options that I just want to give myself for the month, if by some way I have the time to get to them, is that I would like to eventually start the Cradle series by Will White. I believe the first book is called Unsold in that. That is a progressive fantasy, I think it's what it's called, is a genre that I know I have never read before, and I don't know how I would feel about it, so I want to give it a try. I know the people that love Cradle, and the people that it didn't really work for kind of just, I don't know, they can take it or leave it. But I am going to give it a try if I can. If not this month, sometime soon, I'd like to at least try to listen to the first book on audio and see how I feel about it. And then another one that I would like to try to get to is a prequel novella for The Legend of Blackjack by A.R. Witham. And it's called Border Knights. So I did a dedicated review for The Legend of Blackjack. It is a YA portal fantasy that I really enjoyed. I thought it was a lot of fun. And so I would like to try to get to the Border Knight sometime soon. Again, it's a novella, so it shouldn't be too long. And it shouldn't be too much of a problem to get to if I have the time. I keep doing this to myself where I have these highly ambitious TBRs, and I struggle because I don't want to do this to myself to stress myself out, but these are all like genuinely books that I want to get to. Now, with that being said, there's going to be a pretty big caveat this month with whether or not I'm able to get to these things time allowing, because my wife and I both started school for the fall semester, so things are going to be busy at home. And more importantly, my wife and I will be having our wedding the day after my birthday on September 16th. Now, yes, ever since I started my channel, I've been referring to my wife because we are actually married already, but we wanted to set up a celebration for friends and family. So that is going to be happening, like I said, right in the middle of the month. So if you've had a wedding, if you've been part of a wedding, you can understand the planning and the amount of time that goes into that. So I think when I originally intended to do Self Pub September, I didn't have two of the read-alongs that I'm doing, and kind of might have not really foreseen exactly how busy my September was going to be. But regardless, I'm going to try to get to as much as I can get to this month, and if not, I still have them. The books aren't going anywhere, and I will get to these books sometime in the near future. That is going to do it for today's video. Let me know in the comments what you guys plan on reading in September. Do you plan on reading any self-published books alongside me, or do you plan on reading some other things? Now, for those of you that stuck around, you get to hear the Comedy with Colin joke. And today's joke, guys, is going to be, what do you call a person with a briefcase in a tree? If you think you know the answer, drop it in the comments below. If you enjoyed today's video, please give it a like. If you're enjoying the content on the channel so far, please do consider subscribing, as that helps me out a ton. I hope you are all enjoying what you're currently reading, and remember, you're always welcome in Colin's Corner.